the JFK files. All right, and the timing, we'll get into the timing, but again, guys, we were promised he is delivering, but what is the delivery? A lot of these documents had been seen a long time ago. They're coming out. There wasn't any bombshell like, oh my God. And we're gonna get to Connor, and I love Connor's angle, but as a supporter, and mind you, I've been a supporter, and Kelly, you know this, from day one, okay? From California, when I was getting told by comedy club owners, you can't talk about this, you can't perform, you can't do this. I got freaking sucker punched because I was wearing a red Yankees hat that wasn't even a freaking Trump freaking hat. Like, I almost beat the guy ran away like a pussy that he is.
What?
But we were promised certain things. I don't know I don't know everything, Bo, but I'm still a little bit disappointed. But Kelly, give us what was dropped yesterday and what's the pros and the cons and what are we talking about?
Yeah, so everybody is super underwhelmed by these documents finally being released. A lot of what we saw, we were all talking about it last night. Like, have you found anything? Did you find anything yet? Did you find anything yet? Nobody's found anything. So what we did find was a lot of people were saying, you know, these were documents that were previously released. The note that a lot of people made was that Trump said to release all 80,000 documents, but unredacted. So there were a lot of documents that were updated in terms of, like, there were no crossouts anymore. I'm being stupid now. That's what unredacted means.
Yeah.
But so there was, like, little dates, little words, like secret was removed, like stupid stuff like that. Yeah. Tulsi Gabbard did this first tweet that came out where she said what Vinny said, you know, promises made, promises kept.
Show the tweet, Nat?
Yeah, so Tulsi Gabbard did this tweet where she announced the release of the documents last night. I think it was like 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And, you know, promises made, promises kept. Great, but what did we actually find? So this first thing, so these are the little things that we thought were worth talking about today. So the first thing were that we found that the CIA was trying to actively suppress international foreign media coverage from speculating that the CIA was involved with killing President JFK. So for you guys, this conversation came up because it's always been suspected that the CIA has been involved. So this wasn't really new information, but what do you think about the fact that the CIA was targeting foreign media, saying, hey, don't say it's us?
Well, first of all,
why would they do that?
The word conspiracy theory was birthed during this moment. During the JFK assassination, it was the CIA and the FBI came up with this thing to do exactly that type of stuff, to suppress anybody from thinking like, oh, just brushing people off with this theory, okay? And I want Connor's going to break this down good because we had a conversation before we started. Things that we know, and I don't want to give it away. CIA definitely involved. Israel looks like they were involved somewhat. The mafia could have been involved. Cuba could have been involved. But Connor, I'll let you answer this, Connor, and then I want, if you could answer why each one of these people, because it could have been a unified front where, bro, a bunch of interest, especially when it comes to money, guys, it always comes down to money and getting this person out. How much easier is it if the CIA, Cuba, the mafia, FBI, they're like, hey, guys, let's come here. Let's get the military-industrial complex. We got to take this fucking guy out. Let's all work together. Let's all do it. Boom. And everybody shut the hell up. And all the files will be kept for all these years. And who's to say, guys, who the hell's to say who has access to this and what have we seen? We haven't seen everything. It's been gone for, 70 years? How many years has this been locked up somewhere? And all of a sudden they release it. But Connor, I'll let you answer, and then I want to ask a couple of questions.
Yeah, I'll get into that. But let's start off by saying, not for nothing, this is how they should have done the Epstein release.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Regardless of what's in these documents, at the very least, we got them on a website where we could read them on our own time at home.
Yeah.
Nobody handed Jack Posobiec a binder and said, oh yeah, just trust whatever's in there. This is how they should be doing disclosures.
Yes.
Blows my mind that they didn't do that with Epstein.
Well, we know why, but
We'll
yeah.
do that another time.
Yeah.
But, you know, in the documents I read through maybe 40, 50 of them because they're all very short PDFs.
Yep.
Part of the problem is that they're dropped without context, so you have no idea what these documents actually are. You have to try to piece it together. I'm sure people more read in on it than I am might be able to place where they line up. A lot of it's from the Warren Commission and various other investigations, but
a lot of people tried to take all 80 docs and run it through Grok, is it? Like the AI to summarize it, and it just says everything that we've been fed for the past however many years. That it was Lee Harvey Oswald, he acted alone.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem, because 90% of the Kennedy documents that we know exist have already been declassified and have been for a very long time. So I think anyone who's looking for a smoking gun in this is not, or was being a little optimistic about it.
Yeah.
Because
And a little naive. If you
yeah,
really-
yeah.
If you think this is
You
gonna be-
can find plenty of breadcrumbs through it, which it gets to what I'm talking about. Because in what I observed, you found in these documents whatever you went in expecting to find. If your opinion before reading this disclosure was that Israel was responsible for the assassination of JFK, you found plenty of evidence that Israel was responsible. All the documents stamped with things saying CIA approves disclosure of these documents, except for whatever's in brackets. The only thing in brackets is Israel, Israeli intelligence service, our contacts in Israel, just over and over again.
Yeah.
Israel is all over this. So if you are one of the people who thinks that Israel killed JFK, congratulations, you found evidence. If you're one of the people who thinks the CIA did it, then congratulations, you found evidence. There's
lot.
the Underhill page.
Yep,
Or
I have that.
there's also plenty, and I was warning Vinny about this earlier, plenty of evidence pointing at the Russians. And watch for your anti-Russian left-wing politicians and right-wing politicians to now come out and say, hey, all you Putin stooges like Tucker Carlson, look at these documents that prove Russia killed our president. You're so pro-Russia now, I guarantee you they will use that to start trying to whip
poke-
people up to be pro-Ukraine again.
Yeah.
But there's things that, again, point at the mob, point at the Cubans, point at the Russians, communist dissidents. I'm sure we'll get to stuff that might point the finger directly at Lyndon Johnson. So my point is, this really shows how confused people have been about what went down since the day it happened. So there's really nothing new, but it does cement that people have been asking these same questions for decades without an answer.
Do you guys think it's possible that there's a lot of stuff, like anything that does show conclusive evidence where it's not as subjective? Do you think that could possibly have been omitted?
Certainly not in these documents.
No, well,
It's so weird because I had this conversation with my son because I called him. He was at his mother's house last night, and I called him. I said, you need to start reading this stuff now. History is happening. I was so excited. As soon as I saw that the format had come out or the release of the files.
Yeah.
And then there was a weird part, Vinny, where I'm reading through it and I find the Underhill
Yes.
file and it goes, okay, so the government did it. And then I see the redacted portions where it's like, don't talk about Israel. And I went, oh no, Israel did it.
Yeah,
so I'm
good
back to
point.
being confused. The more I read, the sadder I got. The one thing that I did, because if it was our government, for all of these years, we've sat here and it's been speculation. They did it, they didn't do it, we don't know. To actually sit there and read that there's a CIA, the Underhill was a high up government asset. When you read Kelly, the photo that you have, is it both parts, the top and the bottom? Or is it just the top? Because the
I
one
think
that
I
has
have
two.
both. So which one are we talking
The
about?
Underhill? You have the Underhill?
So Nat, if you go ahead one,
Nat,
go ahead
one.
one more.
Yes.
That's the
So
Underhill
if
one.
you zoom
Zoom
into
in.
this,
If you actually read that bottom, it talks about the credentials of the guy above who was found. He went and saw a bunch of friends in New Jersey following the shooting and claimed that a small
Stop
clique
right there.
within the CIA was responsible for the assassination. He was afraid for his life. Less than how many months? Less than six months later, he
Yep.
was found shot to death in a Washington apartment. It
And
was
they
ruled
ruled
a suicide.
Suicide. Weird. That always happens.
But then you read below and it talks about his ties to the intelligence agencies. So you're like, okay, well, if anyone were to know, it would seem like this guy's background would make him credited to know. There was a weird part where it's like all these years, I've known about JFK since I actually went back and thought about it yesterday. I was at my friend Stephen McAvoy's house in Pomona, New Jersey. It must have been 1994, 5, or 6 because The Mask had come out and Cameron Diaz was super hot. I remember.
That was the hottest girl of any time ever in the history of anything. When I saw her face, I was like, who
My mind blew.
Yes.
Like
And then
JFK.
something else.
1994.
I was blown away by what a woman looked like. And I remember this kid was like, hey, you should see this thing my dad has on VHS tape. And it was the Sabruder film. And you're watching a president get shot for the first time. So I might have been 9 or 10 years old when this happened. I'm 38 years old. So for a quarter of a century, I've been looking forward to this happening. And then when you actually read these files and it points towards the CIA, it's so disheartening because you're like, oh my God, our government killed Kennedy. Okay, if it's true that they killed Kennedy, then is it true or is it that much of a leap to say what other horrific things we've assumed our government has done that they've actually done, like 9/11, like the COVID
If I may,
vaccine.
Rob,
Yes,
earlier this morning, we have Nat in the production booth, right? Nat, you're back there. Nat came into the office and we were talking, and she wanted to break down on what I had learned reading the Kennedy files. And, I walked her through a little bit of, just some of what I read, how it wasn't a ton of new information. And this was, I always enjoy getting to talk to people who actually have no idea what the situation is about, because it's one of the few contexts in which I actually sound smart, where I get to bring people up to speed.
You always sound
smart,
Connor.
I was just telling her all the things that, like, part of why it matters is because Kennedy was the domino that led to where we are. Part of what we're trying to do is figure out who tipped that domino that led to so many other things. But like Rob just alluded to, once you get into this whole thing of seeing the players involved, seeing what it did to us, there's a through line from Kennedy to 9/11 to everything that's happened since, of the people who emerged during the Kennedy assassination. Like, we've talked about it before, so I won't dive into it here, but George H.W. Bush being in Dallas as a CIA
Said
agent.
he wasn't. Said he wasn't.
Yeah, making that weird phone call. And then
have that,
rising to CIA director, becoming Ronald Reagan's vice president, getting the Saudis tied in with the U.S. to shut down Russian oil. Then, all of that, those interests, again, converging on 9/11, which may or may not have been a duplicate of Operation Northwoods that was proposed under Kennedy as a false flag operation to get us to go to war against a foreign power. So when you start to ask these questions, it's what opens up your mind a little bit to see the same people have been moving us since the 60s along these lines. And the people say Kennedy was the last president because basically our government has been run by this deep state bureaucracy that converged with organized crime at this point.
If that's true, and that is how the government operates, how did Trump win? Twice. That's what I don't understand. Okay, if there is this deep state that controls everything, which my entire life I've heard about it, there's a part of you that wants to believe it, because it actually helps you understand things. It makes you actually rationalize things. Okay, you can pinpoint, there's a group of evil people. If there is this deep state, then how does Trump get elected in 2016? And then how do they let him get reelected again in 2024?
Yeah, I mean, these aren't questions I can answer because Trump has been an outlier the entire time. As someone who supports Trump, I'd love to say, oh, he's certainly not a part of it. But you have to also believe that if these are people who are capable of killing a president, pulling off false flag operations and steering international events for their own profit and power, then a blip like Trump is something they can absolutely plan for and work around, even if he's not involved. But you know the diagram you've seen of like the angle of the bullet that almost killed Trump, where it's like, if he's facing this way, World War III. He's facing this way, we get Doge. I saw a new one that was that same thing. It's like bullet goes through Trump's head. We go to war with Iran in support of Israel. The bullet misses Trump. We go to war with Iran in support of Israel. So,
oh my God.
I mean,
when you look at a lot of these key things, and that's why it's such a big deal if Israel was involved in the Kennedy assassination, because there's been so many other things they've been involved in and allegedly steered the U.S. into doing. And that's why you have to believe that if there's this shadowy cabal of people, and I don't agree with the idea that the deep state is this secretive thing that controls everything. I think it's select people in power who intervene at specific times to accomplish their agenda, and the rest is on autopilot because the bureaucracy sucks. But they accomplish their goals. Regardless of who arises to challenge them, they are able to work around these things.
well,
I mean, you did see people like Klaus Schwab saying now that Donald Trump has come in, the New World Order as we knew it is over, and they're going to have to pivot. So I'm sure they have like a plan B, C, D, etc. But we can see that like Donald Trump is a huge threat to that deep state. Otherwise, they wouldn't have gone so hard to cheat in the 2020 elections. And I don't care what anybody says. When you look at the numbers of people who voted in previous elections versus 2020, like that is insane. That does not just happen.
Especially because you're in the middle of COVID. So at that time, people were scared into their homes of not going out and voting. So you're telling me during a pandemic, the most people in history went out and voted? We've shown the bar graph. I'm assuming you've seen it, where you can literally see 2012, 2016, 2020, 2024. How does that make sense?
Exactly. And we also saw all of the lengths they went to try to either cheat or kill him in the last election too. So I think that Donald Trump is actually quite consequential towards this deep state agenda. And I don't think that he's necessarily complicit in it, because I don't think they would have tried so hard to prevent him from being elected.
And here's the thing. So I think the tactic of killing, because think about it, they murdered JFK, which one of the worst things next to 9/11. They shot him because there was no the only person with a camera was Abraham Zapruder. One guy. By the way, they didn't even realize, Rob, that this what's up. There's another.
I thought I've heard that there was other people. Let me look.
Okay, look at
Go
it.
ahead. I'm sorry.
I heard that too, and they were confiscated.
Yeah, but ready for this? In that era, guys, you could shoot the guy and find two people with the cameras grabbing, because there was a lady that I saw in a video saying, by the way, I seen the original. That's not even the original. Frames are missing. But that being said, I think Trump, they tried to, because they can't shoot. Yo, you can't just murder him unless every piece of the puzzle, like this Thomas Crooks, and he was on the roof. And by the way, if you look at the details right now of that failed, shitty-ass assassination attempt, it wasn't him. It almost looks like everybody had their backs turned while he was setting up, pointing, looking, drones.
You've heard the nickname that the internet gave Thomas Matthew Crooks?
What?
Retardy Oswald.
Yeah. Okay, now that's hilarious. But if you think about it, so they tried the Russia, since they can't shoot him, they thought, do the Russia collusion thing, which, guys, almost worked. Okay? The FBI collusion, deep state, Peter Strzok, Lisa Page, Hillary Clinton, DNC, doesn't work. Okay? 2020, I believe, this is Vincent Oshana's opinion, that the deep state with China, they were like, hey, listen, guys, and China hates Trump. If we don't do something, he's gonna win. That you guys are gonna go fucking broke for China. Guess what? COVID comes out of a lab that we own. That was their number 2, and they won, which I think actually was even better. Then he's saying he's gonna run again, and they shoot him. And that's a great point, Connor. That to me is God's divine intervention. Because people think we're dealing with flesh and blood. I want everybody out there that's listening to this, this is beyond this, okay? It's not about, well, this guy's a Republican. It's good and evil, and that's it. And this is what I wanted to say, Kelly and Robbie, about all this disclosure. And me and Brandon have been having this conversation, because some people are like, Vinny, if the truth comes out, Amy, Kel, the whole system's gonna fall, or financial, because the people involved. I don't give a shit, okay? Because the house is built on a faulty fucking foundation, okay? In the movie JFK, which got me emotional, in the movie, Kevin Costner says, let justice be done, though the heavens fall. No matter what the consequences, if our government murdered the sitting president, it doesn't get worse than that. And you nailed it. If they did that, I 100% believe they had something to do with 9/11. I 1,000% believe they did something with COVID. So there's zero accountability. The only what's that word? Comfort I feel inside is knowing they're going to be held accountable to one thing, and that's God. Because honestly, Rob, guys, Connor, Amy, Kels, we're never going to get it. They're never going to, I don't care that everybody's dead. We're never going to find out, pinpoint who did it. You're never going to find out. The Epstein shit, good luck.
Oh, man.
Keep sitting on your hands, because that shit's never going to come out. And they're going to keep dangling that shit in your face. Stop believing it. I've lost faith in that whole system because of this, Rob. I still love Trump. I still love the border. I still love bringing jobs back. I love all that shit. I love that he took a bullet. But the house has been built on that shit. On pedophilia, on blackmail, on murdering the president. I'm sorry. Fuck that. Okay? Let everything fall apart. Let everything fall apart. Because what? Everything is working, the financial system, because a country with our intelligence community, their mission was blackmailing. Think about this. If it's true, Israeli intelligence, CIA, FBI, whoever, was cool with underage kids having sex with all these powerful people so they could have dirt on them. Jeffrey Epstein, that's the biggest sex trafficking, disgusting thing, and that's what it all, because they can't release the list because our system's gonna fail. Let it fail. Let it tumble down. I'll rather be poor than live with these motherfuckers walking around just going, hey, we have sex with kids, probably killed a bunch of them. That's why every time you hear sex trafficking, Kelly, nobody cares. 200,000, 600,000 kids missing, nobody bats an eye. They're like, next story. And Trump, they promised that shit. We're never going to see it. And I lost hope. I lost hope in that. Go ahead.
So that I Wow.
John,
How do you follow that?
No,
You
John,
don't follow that.
An applause,
You don't,
actually.
yeah.
That's how you fucking follow that.
So
Good job,
if
buddy.
anybody wants to join Vinny's Angry Patriot Circle, you'll get more of that. But that leads into my question that was going to go for all of you at the end of this was two things. First of all, so do you believe this is the same story the government's been telling us all these years was basically what was put out in the files that came out last night. So two questions for everyone, and we'll go around the room. Do you believe the government was telling us their truth, the truth the whole time with what evidence they actually have, or do you think that there's still stuff missing? And final answer on who you think is responsible for JFK's death. Amy?
I think it's probably a coordinated effort between the CIA and Israel, potentially. So far as like all of the information, like, no, I mean, it's going to be impossible to tell. From my perspective, maybe they should have done this a little bit differently. They should have created maybe like a summary of the most important like parts, the questions that they know
Not
people are going to want.
just good luck.
Not just like a dump
Good
of
luck.
information,
Figure
right?
it
Because I
out.
feel like when you do it like that, it makes it so
jigsaw
easy
puzzle.
to omit stuff.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's what I think.
Connor?
Yeah, it's the government has been lying about it from the get-go. I think most of them are extremely confused. A select few at the top have been covering it up. It was Lyndon Johnson, the CIA, Israel, and possibly the mob all involved. They all coordinated it because they all got something out of it. So,
Rob, what do you think?
Much like 9/11, if the government wasn't actively involved, they were at least complicit and allowed it to happen. Let's not forget that there were multiple angles of the Kennedy assassination that were filmed that day, not just Abraham Zapruder, but also Orville Nix, who filmed the opposite side of Dealey Plaza and provided a different angle of the assassination. This was filmed multiple times by multiple people from multiple angles, and we've only seen one tape that's been edited where there's frames missing. If you want true transparency, Kelly, to your question, no, we have not been given everything because we don't have the missing frames and we don't have Orville Nix's video. We should have both. As to who I think did it, I agree with Connor. I think it was a culmination of characters and foreign agents that were acting with the CIA. Remember, there were other attempts on Kennedy's life. They tried this in Chicago and they tried it in Tampa, and both times the parade routes were changed or he was in a covered car, so the missions were called off. But there are other attempts on Kennedy's life. Who has the resources to pull that off? The CIA. So the CIA allowed it, and there were multiple factors or multiple people involved.
I'm with you guys 100%. I used to just think it was just the CIA, but from doing all the research, and by the way, and another quote, and guys, if you haven't seen Oliver Stone's JFK, if you haven't, Amy, I'm telling you right now, we should as a group watch this freaking movie because who was the character that Joe Pesci played? A fairy, Guy Fieri. He played a gay character, and the CIA. I mean, he committed suicide and took pills too. He said the whole situation, because he's like, what? He's like, don't you get it? He said this whole situation, it's a mystery wrapped in a riddle inside of enigma. It's so complex.
Convoluted.
Kelly, it's like, holy shit, what are we even talking about? So I think the CIA, by the way, the military-industrial complex, follow the money, and it's all shared interests. The moment you say, I don't want war, and you're the president, chitty chitty bang bang. That's one person's motive, all right? Israel, apparently, and Connor, we talked about this earlier, JFK was pushing back against them. No, I'm sorry, I apologize. He was opposing nuclear weapons program in Israel, and Kennedy pressured Israel, specifically David Ben-Gurion, to allow U.S. inspectors to be in the Dimona nuclear facility, suspecting that they were secretly developing nuclear weapons. So that might be a motive.
to say nothing of the fact that he wanted AIPAC to register
Register
as a foreign agent
Yes.
because they're for whatever reason the only foreign lobbying group that
And-
doesn't have to register as that,
and-
even though they routinely unseat members of Congress.
Yeah.
And he also wanted to take down the Federal Reserve.
Which, anything with money,
Yeah.
Connor,
Anything with money.
anything with money, and because Kelly, I know you're going to show this, and guys, if we go along in this, I'll even X my story. I don't give a damn. But Jack Ruby, okay, and you made a great point, guys. And this is even me watching the movie JFK because that was my. Dude, how many years ago can you check out what year JFK happened? That got me interested, and then I was like, oh my
91?
God, they really killed this. They really
91.
killed him.
They want to
91,
tell you
Yes.
that Lee Harvey Oswald
The guy
was,
that- the guy-
was-
go
was
ahead.
shot dead by a mob-affiliated guy named Jack Leon Ruby. What they won't tell you is that Jack Leon Ruby was in fact a nightclub owner named Jack Leon Rubenstein.
Weird.
Everybody knows him as Jack Ruby.
Yeah. Why did you leave out the Einstein?
Why that?
Yeah. They left it out, and then check this out. He goes to jail. He mysteriously has cancer, and then a CIA psychiatrist named Jolly West goes in and talks to him, Amy, for 4 hours, and he loses his mind. This is that whole MK Ultra. So think about it. You have a Patsy in Oswald. You have Jack Rubenstein that shoots him in the basement of the Dallas Police Department. He goes to jail, gets cancer, and then you have a psychiatrist come and talk to him, and he flips his gourd. That's when I tell you guys, we're dealing with something way deeper than flesh and blood. It's evil. And once you accept that, guys, that's why now I'm like, why am I going to stress out and I want to go bananas? You're never going to. Evil has its way here. It consumes the earth. But guess what? They're all going to die at some point, and they better get their shit together, their souls intact, because it's going to be ugly, because they're not going to the same places that we're going.
The audience agrees with you guys that the CIA at 71% were the ones that killed JFK. The rest of them say Israel, 24%. 4% is Lee Harvey Oswald, and 1% is
I
Russia.
love the 4%.
Well, you forgot the most important option, which is just...
I did. I knew I was forgetting one.
The option that Kennedy's head just did that, and there wasn't a shooting.
There was that one. That was the big one.
Kelly, if you guys think about it, Rob, you going to say something?
Well, when COVID happened, I was working on the radio. I got laid off after a bunch of rounds of cuts because when businesses shut down, the way that radio operated and was funded was by the advertisers, local businesses that were open. And, hey, my pizzeria, I'm going to pay to advertise on the radio station. That's what paid the bills. When everything shut down, I lost my job. So I had a contract. The radio station had to pay out my contract. It was a lot of money. So I was like, well, I have time on my hands. The world is shut down. So I went and I visited my friend in Austin, and we drove to Dallas. This is during COVID, so everything's on lockdown.
Yeah.
There's nobody around. We went down to Dealey Plaza, and I went to behind, what is it called? The grassy knoll. I went and looked at the sewer, because you've always heard that there was, like, maybe there were people that were shooting from inside the sewer. It's impossible when you go and look at the sewer. A person couldn't fit down there no matter how small they were. You go to the grassy knoll, you go, I could see that. There's also train tracks and a way to escape via the train tracks. So when you actually go down and you look at the scene, and then we did the entire thing. We went to the movie theater, or where the movie theater was located, where the police officer was shot by
what the hell is his
Oswald.
name?
Tibbet.
Yes,
and then
Tibbet.
we went to Parkland Hospital, which no longer, I don't know if that doesn't exist or the police station doesn't exist, but one of them, we went to both, and it did. But it's surreal when you go and you actually be in a moment where history happened, and you look around and you go, there's no way that the shot could have come from those are things that I wanted to believe. Oh, it came from the sewer. It doesn't happen. It had to be the CIA. And the audience is right. And at this point, we're never going to get the truth.
Ever.
So at this point, it just becomes, what truth are you okay with living with?
Yeah.
And for me, I think it's, unfortunately, and it's sick to think this, the truth that I'm okay with living with, I'm not happy about it, but that the government did it. The question becomes, does Trump open up an investigation? And do we actually... Would you trust a government investigation to investigate that they killed the Kennedy? Probably not. But did you also think that Trump would release 80,000 documents? We also
think how many
they tried to kill him too. They tried to kill Trump too. You think that he would have a vested interest in taking down the system that also tried to assassinate him?
But all the investigators are the ones who work for the organizations. Think how many times the CIA has been like, yeah, we investigated ourselves and we found that we didn't do anything wrong. You're welcome.
Can I be the annoying one?
No,
that
do
the
it.
chat
Do
hates?
it. What? No, do it.
So every single government movie, FBI, CIA thing that I've watched, everybody's so gung ho, a patriot, right? Usually, unless you're the bad guy. But I think there's so many men and women that give up their lives to serve in those fields. Wouldn't somebody dissent and say, no, we can't do this? That's our president. Like, let democracy reign. Like, I would think that would be 90% at least of the people that volunteer for these government agencies.
Well, you don't need everybody to be involved. How many do you really need to pull this off?
That's a great question.
How could they get away with
15, 20 maybe?
Exactly like Gary Underhill shows up at a friend's house and says a select clique did this, and 6 months later he's dead, and the coroner rules it a suicide. You need key people in key positions of power where...
And none of that comes out in all this time?
Well,
No, I mean, it's
Everybody
Kelly,
knows.
but people ask questions, but they know. Go ahead, Connor, finish
Look at how many podcasts have been asking these questions and how long this has been a thing, how many books have been written on this subject. The seal is not perfect.
Yeah.
All you need is the right people in the right positions, like I said, to stand up there and with an authoritative voice, just like the ones who push those BS polls Amy talked about.
Okay.
All they have to do is stand there and say, no, this is false. All the people with the diplomas on their walls and the elected offices and the high paychecks and the official letterhead on their documents have said that it was Lee Harvey Oswald acting alone. And that is all that it takes
Cool.
to downplay everything we've said.
Okay, yes. One more question then. How come the 90% of the 95% of people that are now serving in those government agencies haven't found a way in to uncover or whistleblow the
Because
truth?
by the time you get in, they control you.
Yeah.
This is one of the most underrated, powerful weapons they wield. It's not just blackmail; it's access. If you want to be in the right room with the right people to do all your networking, and you want your career to take off, you gotta play ball. You gotta get on board with what we're doing.
Yep.
And if we see you're a person who can be trusted, then we'll give you access. And eventually, it's just like it works in cults. By the time you're in deep enough to where you could have changed something or exposed something,
get out.
you're already brainwashed into it.
And then your livelihood depends on it because it's the money that like I've been there when January 20th happened. I was working on the radio for Cumulus, and they told us to stick with what the AP reported and don't comment otherwise. We were a show that had been on before me, but I joined as a co-host during the pandemic later on, and our whole job was to give our thoughts on things. And then
And
they're
you couldn't
telling
give
us
your
to read
thoughts.
the news, which we've never done before, ever. And I play on a very minor scale for $50,000 a year, which is what I was getting paid. I went, well, I can't lose that, so I'll just do what they tell me.
I mean,
so
you're more on the hook than some guy who's making millions because that guy probably has a ton of money. You're probably living
Which
paycheck to paycheck. at
goes
that
back
point.
to what you said about Trump when I question how can they control everything if there is a deep state but let Trump get in. Trump doesn't have to play by their rules because he has his own money. So he can
Exactly.
do, like, what I hope this leads to may not be what happened to JFK. That'd be great. What I hope this leads to is what happened on July 13th in Butler, Pennsylvania.
Oh,
Let's
yeah.
open up an assassination investigation into everything.
Yes.
How can it hurt? Trump is clear on all of these. He wasn't president when this happened. He has no ties to these people, and he's been the only one since he got in office that was like corrupt,
Yeah.
wrong about Iraq, corrupt, boring Jeb Bush.
Pocahontas.
And look, I was a Biden supporter because I was retarded, and I'm sorry, and I know that's a wrong word to use.
okay.
I'm sorry, I said it.
It's accurate for Biden voters.
Yes, but I was wrong.
Stop.
But when you look at what Donald Trump has done, not just in the past less than 100 days in office, but what he did the first term, and it wasn't nearly what he's done now because he was handicapped
months.
by being
Russia
by
collusion.
Russia collusion, also having wrong
Impeachment,
actors.
yeah.
Can this lead to the investigation? Because what have we learned about Thomas Michael Crooks? We don't know anything. Thomas Matthew Crooks.
Thomas
We
Matthew.
don't know nearly anything about that
Zero.
guy, and it's been 7 or 8 months, and he tried to kill the now sitting president of the United States. Is this a way for us to get to that place where it's, okay, here's these 80,000 documents. By the way, I don't think they've all gone through, right? There's no way that anybody
No.
has been able
Right.
to know,
No.
even AI. But do
No.
you think this leads to an investigation on July 13th?
I hope to
Do you
God.
think it'll actually be revealed if Epstein's failed, if the JFK releases failed? Do you think we would ever get the truth on that?
I
now?
think because he is the sitting president, he could say, I want every, because ready for this? He's the sitting president. Every other president, JFK was killed. He couldn't say anything. Donald Trump, right now, because I know he says, can we look at that? Maybe we should. Donald Trump, because he's always looking off camera. Donald Trump, Kels, could easily say, hey, Cash, hey, Pam, hey, Ratcliffe, hey, all of you sons of bitches, come in my office. I want to know who this kid was and who he was working for and who brainwashed his ass to go up. Because at the end of the day, my opinion, he wasn't the shooter. His dumbass was up there. The actual shooter, I think, was way farther away. He might have been on the water tower. Because I'm a shooter. I know, bro. There's no way that is the cockiest freaking shot because they were going for the head. Notice how they go for the head because it's a display. It's like oh shit, because everybody goes, whoever's gonna be in line, I will never do that shit because I don't want that to happen in front of my family and in front of the world. Okay, that's it. And by the way, just when you were talking about for instance, the Secret Service, that are protecting Hunter Biden.
Yeah.
You would think, this is where I'm
Not
shifting
anymore.
who opens their
Bye.
mouth. They're finally done, thank God. But you would think They've been protecting this guy for how long? Watching him do drugs, watching him sleep with like very suspiciously young-looking girls, crack, doing this. Why don't they say anything? Why don't they say anything? Because they know, Kelly, they're a part of this system, and if you open your mouth, something happens to you. And I think when it's deep shit like that, Connor, Rob, like the Epstein thing was a good blackmail thing. I think maybe, and if they're like, hey, listen, we need to trust you, we got to have some dirt on you. We're going to turn on this camera, take off your clothes, do something. Bro, blackmail is the biggest thing. I'm reading the books by Whitney Webb called One Nation Under Blackmail. Guys.
Shout out Whitney.
Shout out to Whitney Webb. Bro, I'm driving in my car for 4 hours to go to our podcast that I was up north. Rob, you have to, her name is Webb because she breaks it down like a web. Bro, it's the Jewish mafia, Italian mafia, the blackmailing shit has been going on. J. Edgar Hoover would dress up, I think they would call him Mary in something called the Blue Suite, and they would all hook up and they would record him. So they had the head of the FBI, they had him by the balls, no pun intended, and they controlled. And all the policies that were made happened to right now. So I think when it comes to that, Kelly, especially it being the biggest lie, do you guys remember the quote, the bigger the lie, the more people will believe it. It's attributed to Nazi propaganda under Joseph Goebbels, but actually it was a variation in Adolf Hitler's book, Mein Kampf. He said that people are more likely to believe a big lie because they assume no one would have the audacity to fabricate something so massive. So that's why when it came to JFK and they were like, oh my God, Jack Ruby, yeah, bullshit. And they proved in court. The Warren Commission, when Garrett had everybody in court, you know what they proved in court? The magic bullet theory. I don't know if anybody's Googled what magic stands for. It means fake, make-believe. So in court, they proved that a bullet, if you haven't seen the movie, came in, hit him in the shoulder, hit the governor. The governor was in the front, and the bullet did a U-turn and came back. It's
And all the while, Kennedy's head went back and to the left.
Back and to the left. So
yeah,
it's insane.
Nat, if you're able to do it, can you pull up a diagram of what the magic bullet did? Because this is a bullet in midair making a
JFK magic bullet.
Yeah, JFK magic bullet
magic
graph.
bullet, not magic bullet blender,
Yeah.
which might be a deep state psyop.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
Googling this.
You never know.
No,
You-
but
you-
I mean, you know the unusual suspects have gone deep when we're dropping Hitler quotes.
Oh no.
Yeah,
No,
we're going deep,
wrong
homie.
thing. No.
Oh, no,
no,
JFK magic bullet.
Not
It didn't pull up magic bullet. It
pulled
pulled
up
up
the
the bullet. But like,
That at the blender.
I saw videos where it was showing how the driver did it,
Yeah.
or like the whatever.
It looked very weird.
I don't think the driver did it.
No.
It's impossible.
So
But-
yes,
No.
that one right
So
there.
Nat,
Nat.
right there. Nat, please
Zoom in
play
on that for us.
That's what the bullet-
what they say a single bullet did.
Look at
in
that.
order
Play
to-
that, Nat.
In order
It
to be
hit him in the
consistent
shoulder,
with all the injuries.
hit him in the leg, went to the governor Conley's arm, turned around, did a U-turn, and then landed on his
out
leg.
of his wrist
But
into his thigh, and without deforming. Because remember, they said they found
they
this
found the whole
pristine.
they
thing.
found this whole bullet pristine on a stretcher at the hospital after somebody removed
the
it.
bigger the bigger the lie, the people will swallow that shit because they're fucking dumb and we're brainwashed. And that's it. But like I said, Rob, the only comfort, bro, is that you're gonna have to meet your maker. All of them that have died or all of them that are still alive, you're gonna have to meet. Because there's no, even if you don't believe in God, whatever energy, Buddhist, you come as grass, wherever this soul goes after, I highly doubt, I actually believe it in my heart of hearts, they're not going to the same place as us. That's it. I'm sorry. End of story. You want to kill people? You want to, sexually traffic and sleep with underage kids? You're not going to where we're going. Period. Sorry.
no, don't be sorry. I
No,
think that's accurate.
It's a fact. It's just a fact. So if you like this clip, click right here. And if you want to see more like it, click right here. Stay angry, Patriots.